Chapter 56. Kara. "We need your help." Thana's words restart my stunned mind. My face colors as I realize I've just been staring at the scene through my doorway. I throw open the door and step aside, just gawking as my brain still refuses to process what I am seeing. Thana pushes up from where he's leaned against the doorframe and stumbles his way into the kitchen. The woman behind him moves with much more hesitance. She's taller than him, would probably stand even to me if she straightened her shoulders and stood with any confidence. She enters the house on the balls of her feet, ready to turn and bolt at any moment. I watch as her wings pull in closer to her body and her arms tighten around the bundle of cloth, nearly shaking with the effort to take up as little space as possible. Her eyes track me, and I realize that I'm probably freaking her out. I pull my gaze from her and force myself to turn my body away, hoping that it will put her at ease. Unfortunately, that forces me to watch Thana's gripping the kitchen counter so hard his knuckles turn white in the fight to stay upright. "What happened to you? Who is—" I fight the urge to turn and address the woman behind me, knowing that it will only make her uncomfortable. "What happened?" "Don't worry about me, I'm fine." His smile looks more like he's gritting his teeth, and I can see the faint trembling in his body. It's cold out, and whatever warm scraps he'd managed to gather have been lost since the last time we met. "I beg to differ!" There's something comedic in how high my voice manages to go in that moment, but I am far too distracted by the idea of having someone bleed out in my kitchen to laugh. "I'm fine!" he shouts. Then he scrunches up his eyes in pain, doubling over for a second before continuing a little quieter. "Uva needs your help more than me." I turn to the woman and look her over again. She's managed to make it further inside, but she's still eyeing the door. I take a deep breath and slap on my most unassuming smile. "I assume you are Uva?" I try to speak as softly and gently as I can. I'm Dot. She's shaking now, looking back and forth between me and Thana. Finally she comes to a decision and clutches the bundle of cloth a little closer before nodding to me. "This is Uva." "Ah, my mistake." I smile and nod. I take a slow step forward, but it seems that even that is too quick a move as her whole body flinches back. She takes a rapid few steps backwards, and I don't follow. I just show my palms and try to stand as openly and non-threatening as possible. Her wings flare in little aborted motions that seem like she's fighting the instinct to puff up her wings and get big. Thana said you could help us. I don't have anything." She continues to back away as she starts to ramble. "Dot!" I cut her off before she can back herself against the wall. "Yes, sir." She snaps to attention, her whole body jerking as she locks her knees and faces me. "You don't—" I halt myself before I can get too deeply into the spiral of panic. Just telling her that she doesn't need to address me formally won't make her believe it. Trust is earned. "Thana's right," I continue, resummoning that smile. "I can help you. Just tell me what's wrong." She looks jerkily between the two of us, and I have just enough presence of mind to see blue slip behind my field of vision to help Thana. "Uva, he's been having trouble lately, but he was trying to be brave. He was crying, and he said his stomach was hurting, but he was—" I hurry to stop her as tears begin gathering in her eyes. "Okay, slow down. When did this all start?" I try to keep my tone measured and even, hoping that some of my projected calm will rub off, if nothing else. "It started, about 3 days ago." Her eyebrows furrow as though recalling the exact events is a difficult task. "He didn't say anything, but he was having trouble eating. He didn't complain until yesterday." She hugs the bundle closer to her body, and a sudden, disastrous question comes to mind as I realize that I will have to examine this child. How am I supposed to get her to trust me with her child? She doesn't know me. She's already distrustful and in a highly emotional state. I understand that I am the last resort. But I still don't see her letting that kid out of her arms. Stars knows she won't just hand him over if I ask. I take a second look at the bundle in her arms. I can't even see the child hiding in the wrapped patches of blanket, but based on the size, he can't be much older than 4 or 5 years old. He's certainly no newborn, but he's still plenty small enough to be carried around at his mother's hip. I don't know what to do. I tried some natural soothers, but I didn't have much at my disposal. He was sluggish all day today, but Her voice hitches in a choked sob as she continues. I can't wake him up. Can't wake up. My mind races as I try to match symptoms to a diagnosis. Brief instances of unconsciousness can be caused by dehydration, low blood sugar, or it could be more serious heart or nervous system problems. I bite the inside of my cheek and pray it's not anything too serious. I'm not a medic. I cannot take care of advanced problems. Okay, does he have any other symptoms? I ask, ignoring the painful butterflies in my stomach. He's sweaty and he has a fever. She's watching me closely, no doubt trying to figure out if I'm trying to hide something from her. My reaction speaks for itself. I'm out of my depth, but I am trying to be helpful. All right. He doesn't have any wounds? Any bites? I ask. If it's an infection, that could be bad, especially since it's been untreated for so long, but it shouldn't be impossible, especially with a little arcane assistance. No. She shakes her head along with her answer, and it occurs to me that she had probably already considered the fact that it might be an infection and checked her son over. I grit my teeth, not liking the collection of answers I've gotten, but having no more that could narrow down to what I'm looking for without actually seeing the boy. Dot's still tense where she stands, but at least she's not backing up anymore. It's best to lead with good news. All right, it doesn't sound like an infection, so that's good, but it also narrows down our possibilities. Can I see him? I ask as gently as possible, still wincing at the predictable flinch that runs through Dot's body at the suggestion. She looks over at Thana, wide eyes and mouth half open with a startled protest before Thana cuts her off. This is why we're here, Dot. He's a good guy. Thana smiles weakly, eyes no less intelligent and calculating as he's been watching this exchange go down. I know it's scary, but I need to check him over. I pipe in, trying to be as reassuring as possible. The combination of Thana's endorsement and my calming words must be enough, because she takes a few cautious steps forward, unwinding the rough blanket that shrouds her child. I wasn't wrong. He's only about 3 as far as I can tell, though he is tiny. He's a little disheveled, hair sticking up in all directions. His cheeks are flushed red, and there's a bit of sweat gathering on his forehead. His breath is shallow and quick, and I can feel the tension in the room build. I try to force away the feeling of all the eyes on me and focus on the kid. He's got a little bit of grime on the side of his face, down his neck, though I can see the obvious care that's gone into trying to clean him up. Aside from the rapid breath, he's remarkably still, and when I slot 2 fingers at his throat, I'm a little surprised that his heartbeat is so high. Whatever look passes over my face must clue Dot into my concern. Without a word, she allows me to scoop the child from her grasp. I didn't expect her to be willing to hand her son over, though I suppose that desperate times make for unlikely allowances. I give him a once-over, checking for anything and everything, hoping that Dot's just managed to miss something. But there is no easy answer. That is, until I notice the discoloration by his fingertips. At first I thought it was just some grime, but the color continued even under the nail. The top of his mouth and the back of his throat has the same color. And I almost laugh at myself for not considering the possibility earlier. It's a pretty recognizable smell. I know I don't want an answer to this question, but I need to know. What have you guys been eating? Whatever we could find. Sometimes I could work out some trade, but yeah, mostly what we could find. Dot answers haltingly, concern rising in her eyes as she gnaws on her bottom lip. Right, okay. I sigh, considering the options I have. It's not a lot. Not with what I have. It's not bad, I was going to say, but that's a lie. It could be bad. If this progresses any further, it probably will be looking bad about 10 miles back. Stars. What? I can hear the panic in her tone, and I try my best to think of a way to phrase this that will not end catastrophically. There's one thing I can do, but it's probably going to hurt, so you have to trust me. Dot starts, but I cut her off. I know you have no reason to trust me, but this is the only thing that I can do to help at the moment. I ramble, just trying to get out a clear thought. I want to help, but I know the only thing I can do in the moment will look more like I'm trying to hurt. Her voice cracks as she looks between me and her child. Please help him. All right. I nod, looking between the two of them for a moment before setting off. I let my brain work on autopilot, gathering all the components I'll need and setting them out. I fill a glass with some water and mix the bonding agent. It takes a while for the tincture to fully integrate, but at least it is the newer developed powder we've been going over in class. This one changes color, so there isn't any guesswork as to whether or not the mix has been incorporated. The tincture is built to respond and charge to an active mana source. All I have to do is pulse it with magic until it glows. I prop Uva's head up and make him drink down the mixture. The whole thing moves more like a viscous jelly, and having been on the other side of this, I'm glad the kid's not conscious for this. Even if he could choke down the concoction, it still tastes bad enough to make anyone gag. I give myself a second, just sitting the kid up, rubbing his back in what I hope is a relaxing motion. His wings are limp where they lie, and I can see the obvious, practiced care that went into maintaining them. They make a stark contrast with Dot's half-cared-for, rumpled feathers. She cares for him, deeply. I just hope that my plan works. I lever him up quickly, cradling him in a move I haven't practiced since my own siblings were this age. Dot follows as I set Uva on the counter and lean him at a gentle angle over the sink, but it's easier to block out the feeling of being watched. The rest of the world melts away, and it's easier to find a stable place within me when magic is on my mind. My hand glows the same charged color, and I wait until I can feel where the liquid has set into his stomach. The liquid is reactive now, and even through the barrier of tissue, it's not hard to find or direct. Now comes the unpleasantness. I haven't done this in a while, and I certainly don't want to mess up inside a body, so I start slow. I roll the mass of liquid around slowly, encompassing and coating his insides, and start forcing the contents of his stomach out. The result is pretty instantaneous. It's a mess of coughing and a colorful spew of bile, along with that familiar, faintly rotted smell. Uva's eyes jerk open, and I can see the fever-bright sheen to his eyes that has me doubting that he's processing anything that's going on. Mama, I don't feel so... His wavering voice ekes out before he's taken by a fit of dry heaving. I wince in sympathy. This method isn't the kindest, but I had hoped he'd be able to sleep through the worst of it. His body doesn't appreciate what I've just put him through, and it's going to take a little bit before it settles down. "Uva!" Dot cries out, smile bright as relief washes over her features. She goes to take him back, but I head her off, looping my arm under Uva and keeping him from tumbling into the sink as another round of heaving takes him. Be careful. He's still fragile. It's not better. He just got it all out of his system. As if to prove my point, he slumps over, trembling, unconscious again. I pull him up against me and settle him on my shoulder. Just because his body is in rebellion doesn't mean he has to be uncomfortable. I can set up the couch for him so his mom can keep watch. His wings shuffle in a frankly adorable twitch as he snuggles closer into my body. Yes, what was wrong with him? Dot asks, reverting back to that cautious, stilted way of speaking. Well, he just had a bad pastine. The look of confusion I get tells me that I'm going to be answering a whole lot more questions. I've eaten pastine before. It tastes bad, but it has never done that, she counters, looking me up and down like she can visually detect the lie. You've probably had fresh pastine. When it goes bad, it gets toxic real fast. Some people candy it with other diluents to make hallucinogens. It's really not pretty. I cut my own rambling short. Stars. I can see the look on her face. Not relief, but the slowly dawning horror. She came really close. Her kid was poisoned, and she didn't know it. She didn't know what was wrong, and with much more time, the effects would have been at least partially irreversible. She'd probably never heard of it as a toxin before. Just an exotic fruit. It's okay. When pastine goes bad, our stomachs can't break it down anymore. It binds to stomach lining and slowly poisons you from the inside. I shut my mouth before I can make Dot go any paler with my attempts to reassure her. I'll make him something to get some electrolytes in him. He's not going to feel good when he wakes up, but at least he will wake up and we can go from there. I try to smile. She just nods, but I can see her hands shaking. I rock the kid side to side, enjoying the weight in my arms as he snuggles a little closer. I haven't done this since my siblings were small enough to fit in my arms, and young enough not to mind being seen that way. How about we take some time and calm down a little? Let's have a talk, okay? The tense atmosphere that we'd just abandoned returns. I can't thank you enough. I don't have anything I can trade for what you've done, but if there's something you want from me... Dot rambles before I cut her off. You misunderstand me. How about we set your boy down, tuck him in on that couch, and you let me know if there are any wounds that are bothering you. Thana's got a bloody head wound, so I definitely need to see to that. But if you've got something bothering you, I can try to help. I smile, hoping that the dopey show of teeth is more than enough to prove I'm harmless. When I turn around to address Thana, he's sitting on the ground, back up against the wall, but slouched against Blue. His gaze settles weakly, directed in my direction. But honestly, I'm more impressed with Blue. He wasn't comfortable around Thana the first time they met. He was scared of ferals from all the stories he'd heard growing up. Yet here he is, actively comforting the person he'd been so scared of. I'm impressed with the competence he's displayed while I dealt with our other guest. He kept Thana calm and comfortable. And that's no easy task. Stars, you're bleeding out, I joke, making my way over to the two of them. You're being dramatic. He chuckles, but I don't miss the wince that comes with his words. I am being just a little dramatic. There's a lot of blood, but head wounds by their nature tend to bleed quite a lot. The blood on him is dry anyways, so the wound has probably clotted up by now. But that doesn't mean it's still not dangerous. Blue does his best to sit Thana up straighter as my approach, but I don't miss how much he seems to protest the movement. Can you even stand? I ask, shifting Uva a little higher on my hip as I make my way over. I'm just dizzy is all. Thought I'd wait here until you stopped shaking the damn floor. He grins up at me, shutting his eyes against what must be a truly unsteady spinning. All right, can I heal you? Just something to make sure nothing gets worse until I get a look at you, I offer. He's had a bad reaction to magical healing before, but this seems a little more severe. Blue takes Thana's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze before Thana turns back to me. Yeah, that would probably be for the best, he admits after a moment of consideration. I'm not experienced with head wounds, but I heal him over until I'm convinced there's no open wound. The area might still be a little tender, and there's no way I'm letting him sleep tonight on the off chance that he's got a concussion. I am in no way qualified or capable of repairing brain tissue. Uva mumbles into my collar, showing the first signs of wakefulness. I can't help the smile it brings to my face, even though it's followed by a mouthful of spit up. I turn to his mother, waving away the horrified look on her face. Why don't we go tuck him in so he can have a rest? You can tell me if anything's bothering you, and Blue can help Thana get clean so I can see exactly how much brain leaked out of that wound. I try to regain that nice, calm, and trusting headspace we had just a few minutes ago. Not cool, man. Vanna plays into it, acting just a little more familiar and at ease than he ever has around me. Or at least, I hope it's an act. It might be the blood loss, or brain damage. Master, are you sure you want me to... Blue looks up at me with worry in his eyes as he points vaguely in the direction of the stairs, and I realize his concern before he finishes the question. There's a tub downstairs. Just put things back where you find them, and there shouldn't be a problem. I've got some workshop clothes there, but I'll see if I have anything to fit any of our new guests. Yes, Master. Blue nods his head before turning to help Vanna down the stairs. I can't help the sigh that comes at the sight of Blue with one arm around Vanna's waist, the other draped over his shoulder in an attempt to keep the two of them upright as they go down the stairs. I slap on my best smile and prop Uva up a little higher on my hip. Let's get him settled, shall we? I ask as brightly as I can manage, as Dot seems to shrink into herself, a little more cautious than she was previously. It's going to be a long night.